Hey, I'm Charles Soule. You're watching SuperWonder Legacy.
Hey, this is Jason J. Lewis, Superman from Justice League Action, and you're watching SuperWonder Legacy.
You're strong.
I know.
Are you a sight for sore eyes?
It's nice to have someone who likes you for being you.
It's okay. I've got you now.
Just like in the movies.
Welcome to SuperWonder Legacy. I am Jared. I am here with Britt. What's up, Britt?
Hello, hello.
And today we are talking about one of our most requested comparisons. I know I say that every week, but you guys keep requesting great comparisons. We are comparing the Super Wonder of Pixar, Mr. Incredible and Elastigirl. This is going to be a fun one. So, Britt, previous to this, did you see both Incredibles movies?
Yes, I have.
What'd you think of them?
When you have younger siblings, of course, you're going to look at it as a kid perspective. But as far as the first one was really fun. You know, you basically get a PG Kingdom Come in a way, because it is about, heroes and trying to be normal, but at the same time, you're outlawed, and you have the sidekick or the character that's obsessed, with trying to make your image look bad. And that was basically what Magog tried to do with Superman. So yeah, I would say
and it's what Tom King is doing with Wonder Woman.
Well, no, I wouldn't say that. That's a different type of insult. But the second one was a little bit more family oriented, a little bit more comedic, especially with Jack and him developing his powers. And then you have, Violet and Dash. They are coming into their own as preteens or teenagers. And then you see more of Elastigirl's perspective as a mother, a wife, and a hero. And you see that she obviously is not, the sidekick, or she isn't just placed in this one background as the female role. It is a little gender reversal there. And Bob is kind of pathetic in some sense. He's kind of I wouldn't say self-deprecating. It was more like he's trying to find his way, and his way is to be the hero. But the world evolves around it, revolves, or changes a little bit. But once you get back into that, well, the world or the city will need you at some point, and then you go to that. So it's quite, for it being a kids movie, or it is telling a deeper story about heroes, and it's really I'll say the family-oriented part of it is done so much better than obviously DC. I would say it will come close to Fantastic Four family dynamic.
With me, it's like the first one is like the best Fantastic Four movie ever. But the second one, my problem with the second one is, first off, people waited like a decade plus for the sequel. And then it's just a rehash of the first movie, but with Helen instead of Bob. So that's where I was like, but anyway, so going to this, it is kind of funny. It is a PG Kingdom Coming, because like the superheroes go fight a fight for justice, but then they're outlawed. Except in this universe, all superheroes are outlawed. It's not like all of a sudden it's like, oh, these edgy 90s characters show up and they start like, and they take over, and then they like cause a bunch of destruction. No, what it is, it's just okay. So all we have are like, or like the superheroes in general are like banned, in other words. And what's up, NJ, Luffy, and Cameron? What's up, Rick? Go ahead.
I said it right.
Yeah, and then Luffy says, "Sup, guys? Incredibles is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's the perfect example of why superheroes don't need to be paired with ordinary humans and have super families." Yeah, exactly. It's ironic how there's no Lois character in this movie. No wonder it's so great. So let's talk about the core relationship comparison, Britt.
Okay, yeah. So you do have the couples that are superheroes. You know, it's super times super, and they are their own individual characters. They get together and they build a family. That is pretty much what Clark and Diana's relationship is about as well. You have these two incredible beings that are in the public and they understand each other. They come together because of that understanding. Uh, and with that, I also there's also the thing of the even though they had different powers, you know, it's just the fact that they were the face of the heroes in their universe, just as Clark and Diana.
Yeah, that is kind of like an interesting like thing because it's like obviously the thing about Clark and Diana is like yeah they she doesn't have like heat vision or something like that, but they both can fly. They both have super strength. At times, Wonder Woman is bulletproof. But I definitely like how like with this, and it's like even the kids. Because here's the funny thing about whenever Superman and Wonder Woman have kids, they always have like a mix of their powers. Whereas with Helen and Parr, the kids have very different powers than them as well.
Exactly. You also have, you know, the fact that these two pairings, they want to have quote unquote normal in their own unique way. You know, we all have our own normal. Normal isn't the Stefford way that DC has portrayed having a nuclear family. You know, it's not anything like that. It's just being confident and accepting of yourself. And that's basically what the two movies were about too, is accepting your identity. And that is something that DC struggles to have with especially Superman, because he can't have that balance within being Kryptonian and being, you know, the guy that grew up in Smallville. You also have the personalities, you know, Mr. Incredible and Superman are the idealistic, you know, duty driven, the father figure or the father type mentality, and they are burdened by, you know, the expectations. Diana and Helen, they have that, you know, very level-headed mentality. They can adapt to the whatever challenges and, you know, hit them head on, and they also are the voice of reason. So both dynamics are practically the same.
Yeah, exactly, and it really works really well for this. It's like, and even in like the Dark Knight universe, it's like it's like even with that, because correct me if I'm wrong, but Laura and John have the same powers as Clark and Diana for the most part, right?
Laura is more of Clark's side. She just, for instance, if she lost her powers, she does have that Amazon training. With John, he was described as a baby Buddha. So even though he has the surface level of, you know, the same Kryptonian powers, they're a little bit more leveled up, and also he has Frank pretty much hinted that he has a little bit more to him that we don't know yet.
Yeah, exactly. But Emperor Luffy says Hyperman has time manipulation, so he's able to manipulate time. Boy, isn't that
Right,
overpowered.
he is basically he's in the category of if you ever saw the anime called Psyche K, that is pretty much Kingdom Come John. Um, yes, yes, it is time manipulation, but it's also more to it. And he I'm thinking he also has the same powers as Clark too, you
Hmm.
know, but he was the protector of hyper time.
Yeah, exactly. So then we get to the key differences. Obviously, they have different powers, and as opposed to in Kingdom Come, by the way, trigger warning for the Peter J. Tomasi cover. The you get like again, like I said before, the more extreme versions of superheroes don't take over. It's more like all crime fighting is like banned because of like lawsuits and stuff. And I'm like, that's actually a really interesting like what I like what Kingdom Come did because it was like more of like it was a response to like the 90s-ification of comics. I get that. But I also like the way that like I like how now Bob and like Frozone have to like hang out with like a police like radar thing in order to like fight crime from the shadows and stuff. And they still like have to escape. So they're still like vigilantes, but this time again, the government is not on their side. And I also liked how in comparison, Bob isn't ridiculously overpowered like Superman is. So it's like that. That's the other thing. This is more of like a grounded take. In fact, actually, you know what you think about it again, and you brought it up on the previous slide. Bob is basically Golden Age Superman, except without the well, actually, Golden Age Superman because he didn't even have the heat vision yet when he first showed up.
In a way, yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Because I believe Brad Bird was like a big fan of Golden Age superheroes, so that's kind of what this is. That's also the like aesthetic of the movie where everything is very 1930s, which actually works really well. And Luffy, I know I like the cover. I can't not. There's very limited covers I can use and keep it fresh. But yeah, and I also dig the again. There's like more of a family thing. But can you imagine if they actually did a comic that like expanded on what if Superman and Wonder Woman had an actual family?
Well, what a comic that would be.
Yeah, it's almost like we have hints of it in the Dark Knight universe. Isn't that interesting? And I also like how like with Elastigirl versus Wonder Woman, it's like you bring up like editorial and stuff, but one of the things I definitely like is like they still don't make Helen like, oh, she's just Mr. Incredible's wife or something like that. No, she still does stuff. In fact, she even saves him and like protects the kid. So it's like at least she's not like a damsel as well.
Exactly.
Which again, and with the Incredibles again because it's a Pixar movie, even though when you watch it as an adult, you're like, oh my, when you like understand the references they're making, like with death and superheroes like being killed off, it's like it's the movie's surprisingly darker. There's even like a deleted scene where Helen thinks Bob is having an affair because he's being mysterious and he leaves like the house at weird hours. So I'm like, for a kids leaning movie, this is very like mature when you think about it.
Right, and those mature things are actually executed properly. And that's the thing. DC and Marvel are supposed to be. I mean, it comics and superheroes or whatever are supposed to be for kids, but obviously it has evolved over time where it is of all ages. And you do have that, whether it is explicit of showing, um, the heroes in mature scenes or whatever, or you have it where it's at least in the category of PG-13, I would say.
Yeah, pretty much.
But the way DC and Marvel tends to write their couples and families, it is so tedious and childish. It does not, even if they do bring up mature topics, it's handled so poorly that you can't resonate with those pairings or families. But yeah, exactly. The Incredibles being a kids movie, it has so much maturity within it.
Yeah, and that's that's why I can watch it as a and Astra says, so are we pro Super Wonder or anti? Because I'm mixed due to what's happening with Ultra Boy. Well, that's still Lois Lane. Love it. But yeah, we're always going to be pro Super Wonder as a concept, Astra. At least that's the way we are. You guys don't want to be pro Super Wonder. That's more fine. Just we happen to attract pro Super Wonder people. So continuing on, then we get the editorial thing, which the editorial perspectives for DC. Britt, I'm sure it's the most like respectful thing like ever. I'm sure they treat this couple with respect, especially Wonder Woman. I'm sure DC tends to love Wonder Woman and constantly gives her projects, and definitely doesn't have someone that really doesn't understand the character writing her, right? That's silence. That's silence. I love that pause.
I mean, I don't even know why you even asked.
Yeah, but it's like they really the funny part again is how many people they even did a bastardization of it in Dark Knights of Steel. By the way, for those of you that don't know, the one episode that we did comparing Dark Knights of Steel to Riddle the Beast is gonna be the only time we're gonna talk about Dark Knights of Steel. We're not talking about part 2. Because it's just Taylor doing his own version of Super Wonder, which sucks. He has her pair with Supergirl, which no matter what he says, that's Kara. She looks exactly like Kara. And second off, I'm not going to discuss a book that's drawn by an individual that made, I'll believe this way, child-loving jokes and made propaganda for Vladimir Putin. Excuse me if I decide we're not. Don't worry, Britt. You're safe from ever discussing Dark Knights of Steel 2. Anyway,
I mean, I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have done it in the first place. So
no, but I'm not going to ask. Let me put it to you that way. That's never going to be an ask, unless they just kill. Because if you saw the end of the issue, they hint that Kara's going to die.
I mean, even if you asked, I would say no. It's already weird for you change her name, but she looks like Kara. You know, if you know the saying. If it looks like a duck and quack like a duck, it's a duck.
She's not Kara.
So,
why does she look just like Kara?
And yet again, she is still drawn in that way of they don't look the same age, you know. So you still within the main continuity, you are looking at her as that teenager that Diana pretty much fostered in a way as a older sister. And even in main continuity, Kara has referred to Diana as like a mother to her. So yes, it's very weird.
Exactly. So Britt and I have a clip from one of our Super Wonder episodes that's basically us bashing that pairing. It's from that episode. We're still talking about if we should release it. But anyway, would YouTube ban? Here's the thing, NJ. It's not necessarily the political part of it, which is why I'm very careful about what I say. It's the child-loving jokes about Kara. And did you see, by the way, Britt, that Tom Taylor responded to someone talking about that and said, oh, it's just he doesn't speak English that well. That's not what he meant. And I'm like, bro, I read the comments. What do you think he said?
Taylor, because he is working with him and Taylor feels like, oh, it's just the internet taking things out of context or, you know, going insane. Taylor likes to play victim, it seems, and he likes and it's like if he likes something, if he's working on something, if he's working with someone and he likes them or whatever, then yeah, he's going to defend it. If it's something that he don't like or whatever, he is going to play victim, just like how he did I believe with the Starfire and Dick Grayson fandom. He said something about them like, or it was one person or something that sent him a mean tweet or whatever, and you know, pretty much his own self exaggerated it. So, you know, he's playing the Twitter game.
It's an ego trip.
Very much an ego trip. All of these writers, modern writers so far, has that issue with the ego trip.
Except for Stephanie, I would say.
Right, Stephanie is a real one for sure.
And Charles, let's not forget. Let's not throw everyone under the bus. And I would say Jeremy also is pretty cool.
I mean, if you know, you know who's who. That if
In other words, you know who's the problem. All right, just know
exactly.
that he blocked me despite me barely having any interaction with him, probably because I'm followed by EVS.
I think it is a blockchain.
Mhm.
So if you block
I'm
one
like, what a
person,
baby. Well,
yeah,
I would say now he has a reason to block me because I was like, you're working with this individual. Are you stupid? I even said from the beginning when they announced Otto Schmidt, by the way, look up Otto Schmidt. That's the guy. Look up his controversies and then tell me, am I wrong? Because it takes a lot, Britt. It takes a lot for me to not want to review something that's Wonder Woman related. I won't even discuss it on Amazon Answers or Wonder Woman Wednesday. Besides, just tell me, or you somehow took it and made it worse.
exactly.
Anyway, back to this. So what we have here, it's like the funny part about Superman and Wonder Woman again is that the normie perspective, people can say, the normies know Superman and Lois, but it's like every normie I've talked to, granted, it's very like, what's the word? It's very like, what's the word? It's anecdotal evidence. Let me put it to you that way. But wherever I look outside of my circle, people already think Superman and Wonder Woman are together because, again, it makes sense. I love when people say, well, that's too obvious. And I'm like, wait a minute here. So you're saying it works?
Yeah. So you're saying it works and you're saying it makes sense, which is very funny because there was someone posted a tweet, of course, it's always on that Bird app, and they got mad at saying that they get irritated, aggravated, whatever, at couples dressing as Superman and Wonder Woman on Halloween. And it's kind of like, okay, you are so I don't
Didn't you tell me someone said that they don't need real relationships because they have Clark and Lois?
Yes. So
that's the level of stupidity people have.
So you're basically judging or in other people's business with their personal relationship outside of comics. And mind you, some of these people either do not care for comics or whatever, and they just see Superman and Wonder Woman. And also, Superman and Wonder Woman has been promoted as a pairing for Halloweens for decades.
Guess what? I discovered you can still get desk mats of this cover of Superman and Wonder Woman, like legit, like mouse pad maps. So it's like they keep marketing this.
Exactly, they are.
It's not my fault. Lois looks boring. Who's gonna dress as like gender bent Clark?
Exactly. Someone actually in the comments said that. It was like, well, I hate the pairing too, but who's going to dress up as a journalist or, someone that's not recognizable? And exactly, for Halloween, you dress up in a costume. Superman and Wonder Woman are matching costumes. You don't get mad about Batcat. You don't get mad at, someone dressing as a salt and pepper shaker.
It's like with me, and I go to Comic-Con. As of yet, I've never seen I've never seen two people go as Superman and Lois. I may have, but that could be just like the costume is too like generic until you lean over and look at the name tag that says Lois Lane.
I mean, the fact that is the only thing that you have to put on. I mean, even with Halloween, they would have for the Lois costume, it would be a white button-down shirt and a pencil skirt or pants or whatever. And like you said, it looks like gender bent Clark. And they also wear glasses. It's kind of like Lois never wore glasses, so why do you have that on? And also the only way you would know or identify her costume is the press pass. So, you look like a kindergarten teacher or just something with a badge on. Okay, whatever. That is so lazy for Halloween. So yes, someone wants to, dress up as a character.
And Astra, I get that, like, if you put in the work, you could look like Lois, but again, the general audience is not going to know who the hell that is. The general audience doesn't even know she has purple eyes. So it's like, again, it's like, and plus even on that, that's inconsistent. So it's like, look, it's like, you could do this any way you want to do it. Lois is not as the street just looking recognizable as if I look at someone dressed as Wonder Woman, no matter what version, I'm like, okay, that's Wonder Woman. When I look at a girl dressed as Lois, I'll think, oh, so you're a gender bending Clark Kent, to Britt's point, because it's like that's what Lois is.
Exactly. Or you didn't dress up at all. That's what it looks like. You didn't dress up at all.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, having these bird out people demonize, real life couples, and as you brought up, these some fans do not care for relationships themselves and want to project on fictional relationships, and they want to control that. But at the same time, I mean, trying to control a character that you don't own in the first place is really you definitely need to go touch grass for, I don't know, a couple of hours or whatever.
Or maybe
But
therapy, maybe?
therapy, that would definitely work. But getting mad because this relationship resonates with people outside of comics and even within comics, but yeah, that is what this relationship is about. It's about that acceptance of identity, that you can express yourself a little bit more and stand out. And so with Halloween, you want to have fun, you want to stand out. And I have seen so many families, or they will call themselves the Power Family, and you have, of course, the mother as Wonder Woman, the father as Superman, and then you have your Superboy or Supergirl, or they dress up as other characters, but that is how you have fun. I just don't understand why, some people don't, within certain fandoms, they have to judge just the innocence of things.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like going to the Parr family. When you think about it again, they represent what Diana brings to Clark's life in a relationship perspective. Because again, the whole point of The Incredibles is the superheroes learning to own the fact that they're superheroes and not trying to fit into this rigid structure. Because what Diana, because SuperWonder gets the very unjustified reputation of, oh, she separates him from being Clark Kent. And I'm like, here's the problem with that saying. It's based in no fact whatsoever. What Diana says is, no, still be Clark Kent because that's part of who you are. You grew up as Clark Kent. What you have to do is not shy away from the fact that you are Kryptonian. You need to find the proper, what's the B word, Britt?
Balance.
Thank you. So and in that movie, it's in both movies, it's all about the superheroes. Yes, they have to adhere to some structures and stuff, but it's mainly no, own the fact that you're superheroes, that you protect the world, and you don't have to try and hide who you are. That's literally what the first movie is, because Dash says, can I just go play sports? I'll only win by a little much.
Exactly.
So it's but no one really you would think in a world that's so stuck on diversity and embracing what makes you unique, this would be more embrace, but I don't know. But it's it also really, I liked the idea of in both universes. Yeah, it is based on these older heroes, and you do see a little bit they're trying to teach the younger generation what to do with their powers and such. So I definitely dug that as a concept for the movie. But what are you going to do? People, and again, Luffy and Cameron brought it up in the comments earlier in the stream. I'm just going to say it again. It pisses me off when I see people embrace this couple or these powered couples that are basically Super Wonder, but all of a sudden it's when DC Comics actually does Super Wonder, the fan base is like, oh my god, it doesn't make sense, Britt.
Well, it is because they have, of course, preferences for well, we've seen it a lot of times where Superman fans, they read Charles Soule's book and they wish that, Lois was in Diana's position, or Williamson with his Superwoman arc. They were thinking, oh, he was going to make them a power couple. He was going to call them a power couple. He was going to basically redo Soul's book and do it quote unquote better. But as we see, that arc really wasn't anything. It kind of, you still really don't know why Lois had powers. Is only because, as what Williamson actually admitted to, that they didn't know what to do with Lois. So they gave her powers, and it really, it wasn't truly impactful. You know, he said that it was supposed to be just for fun, but and it was also for Lois to understand Clark finally, you know, with having the powers, but you still didn't go in depth in character, or, you know, character analysis with that, how that actually would change their relationship. It was just the fun part in a boring way.
Yeah, exactly. And then Luffy says what's wild is that the DC fandom has legitimately never thought about these things. They generally don't think at all about what they dislike, what the pairing in the first place. Yeah, exactly. And again, that's why I'm convinced that like the closest fandom is just Lois Lane fans, because none of them talk about Superman. It's mostly like, oh, look at how awesome Lois is. And I'm like, yeah, sorry, she's not. Anyway, fan receptions, because it's like the fans love this, but it's like Superman, Wonder Woman, they're like, remember when Crisis was coming out and it leaked out that Superman and Wonder Woman were a couple in that, or at least Earth 2 Superman and Wonder Woman, and then everyone accused Superman of committing adultery even though Lois died in that universe?
It was adultery, and that Diana was reduced to a love interest, even though it was actually reversed, that Diana was the main character and Cal was the support or the background.
Which, but as Wonder Woman fans that have lived with the opposite, it's like, oh, this is nice. I like this. And but yeah, it's like she's reduced. She literally makes the final sacrifice. I'm like, what are you doing? And she doesn't vanish, Astra, because even the comics. That's the funny thing about it. Because and Astra, I'm not talking about you when I make the following statement. I want to make it clear. But people that say that don't necessarily read the comics, because here's why. When you look at the new 52 comics, she wasn't reduced to a background character, because it's like in the Superman book, yeah, she's not going to be the center of attention because of the Superman book. In the Wonder Woman book, Diana is the center. In the Superman Wonder Woman book, you really make more of the argument that's really more of a Wonder Woman Superman book, because it's like they deal mostly with Wonder Woman's arc and stuff. So there's that. So I'm like, it was just like, okay, so occasionally she shows up in his books, occasionally he shows up in her books, and in the Superman Wonder Woman book is when they come together. So it's like, wait a minute, where is the reduction? If anything, Superman's reduced in the Charles Soule book.
Well, yeah, I think it definitely had more perspective from Diana, because she was the one who understood identity and Clark didn't. So he basically had to learn from her.
Yeah. So I'm like, which one really is that? Because I'm sorry, I'm not seeing the math is the math thing, Britt. But anyway, then you get to the eugenics argument, because oh boy, I will say this, Britt. The great thing that Joshua Williamson Superwoman arc did, and you can find tweets about this. It exposed to people how hypocritical the Superman fandom is, because people are like, but everyone's like, oh, she can now understand him now, to your point. Or it's like, oh, they imagine the kids they'll have now that they have powers. And everyone's like, but you were against that when it was Wonder Woman.
Yeah. And don't forget the whole eugenics or the taking over the world like Injustice. What else? Fascism.
Yeah, even though people on YouTube make do that whole fascism argument way too much, because they even called Zack Snyder and Christopher Nolan fascist because they're filmmaking. And I'm like, what?
I think people learn new words and just use it out of context. It's just the new buzzwords, and just to act like moral police or whatever, they make things up. Just like um let's see, other celebrities. When they have this certain one-sided beef, they make up these certain things. They call them that is pretty much what tabloids are. When you see those National Enquirers or something like that, they're making up stories. So that is basically what these people are doing, even with fictional characters, and having this parasocial relationship with them.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, look, again, Britt and I have said, we have pointed out when SuperWonder was done poorly, a la Chris Claremont. That's another book I'm never going to make you do an entire episode about, Britt. Trust me. Actually, we did when Britt and I did bad SuperWonder stories. It was like our 5th episode. So it's like we've talked about the bad times this is. So we're going to straight up tell you there are times when this was done horribly. So just to let you guys know, yes, we're biased toward this couple, but we're not like blinded by it. In fact, again, Britt and I have said many times that, look, if SuperWonder did not sell well, if it wasn't as iconic, if DC did not market the hell out of it, we would be like, okay, that's fine. We like it, but we're not going to say like DC has any obligation to like stick to it. The point is that didn't happen. The couple is iconic. The sales were like amazing, and literally every other superhero universe does it. Marvel did it with their Justice League. Exactly. So I'm like, what are you guys doing? But anyway, in here, it's like I wonder why does the eugenics argument not come across here? Because it's like, okay, wait, you have 2 superpowered people and they have superpowered kids. Huh, interesting. But with SuperWonder, it's all of a sudden a problem. Isn't that? And you know what's interesting, Britt? Couldn't you say that Superman being with Lois is in and of itself eugenics? Because it's like dealing with like, oh, you want to keep the genes pure, or like it deals with like what would human genes look like when they're interacting with Kryptonian genes.
Well,
so it's
when John was being promoted, of course, you did have a lot of the fans say how it's being half human, and how being half human, he is more powerful than a pure Kryptonian. So they were saying that his human side, which is Lois, is the superior side. So yes, it's very much human superiority. So not only is it eugenics, but it's also being xenophobic, because you are downing even that quote unquote foreign side.
And these are the same people that say Superman's an immigrant story. Like, wait a minute here.
Well, we see that the immigrant story for Superman is going to be dragged to hell and back and demonized. So,
yeah, are we missing Zack Snyder yet? Anyway, so then you get to why the super family would work, like, again, in Kingdom Come. Imagine an entire, like, even a mini series that takes place in the Kingdom Come timeline, dealing with like Superman and one. Because again, yes, now we've seen Superman as a father. We've never seen. We've never seen. And I'm gonna say this again. We've never seen Wonder Woman as a mother. We definitely have never seen that. And you know what's kind of funny? In the main universe, we still haven't.
To have it as, how emotional it was within the Kingdom Come universe, that is actually your foundation, to display that Clark and Diana as parents and the seriousness of it. And especially because at the end of Kingdom Come, it was described that Diana was the student that turned teacher. And within that, what does the parents, they do teach their children. So not only is Diana a teacher for the new age of heroes, everyone else, but also for her children. And Clark, he is the guide as well, not only for, of course, the new generation of heroes, but also for his children. And their children are the symbols of that new beginning and the blend of humanity and, you know, the heroes. And how basically how Clark and Diana parent their children, it shows how the world basically will evolve and go forth. And we saw that even in JSA 22, I believe. That was an extended version of Kingdom Come's ending, where it was 1,000 years. You know, you see Clark and Diana's kids, they grow up. Bruce kicked the bucket as an old man. Diana, after I think within 500, 600 years, she passed. And then the next 500, 400 years into, you know, the era of the Legion, that is when Clark was an old man and wore Diana's cloak.
Yeah, exactly. And it was like, okay, so that's not bad. That's not good. I'm like, wait a minute here. It's just, again, it's like throughout all the different years, and I like where Clark gets to see his kids on the Legion, and it's like, yeah, it's like, and he was with Diana up until the end. I really dig that. And it's like, you could definitely show that, like, because here's why that's interesting, seeing kids from these two. I've said it many times. They are the faces of the Justice League in the DC universe. Can you imagine what expectations and pressures that brings, being the children of these icons?
Exactly. You can say that they tried to do it with John, but they still didn't, because they want, you know, with all of the continuity errors in the history, it wasn't, his conception wasn't done in a organic way for continuity wise, and just planting him there and changing everything around for him to fit, supposedly, you don't feel that natural evolution for Superman as a character for him to be a father. You barely see him really just, I mean, John pretty much aged in dog years. You had him as a baby, then you had him as a 10-year-old, and now you have him as a 20-year-old. You know, so that is pretty lame, you know, and very much cheating with a lot of storytelling and stuff, and you're expected to care for him. And then it's the same thing with Lizzie. Lizzie, she came as a grief gremlin. Then, you know, the Chucky baby. Actually, what's funny is that King is so out of touch. He does not know how to write caring for a baby, that even in present time, where's the baby? You know, Diana is still in the Justice League book, and Lizzie, baby, you know.
That's the other thing, Britt. You notice how no other creatives pretty much has referenced the fact that Diana's a kid. That Diana has a kid.
Right. So, I mean, that's pretty much how you know that probably at the end of this, whatever, she can go bye-bye.
Because here's the thing. Again, the one time they did reference her, she got unreferenced. I love that. But it's like, even with like Black Lightning, when he talks to like the train, he goes, "We're all parents here." It's like, you could really be saying he's just talking about him, the Batman, Superman, because they are. So I'm like, even with that, it's like, again, no other creative, when they should have, when there have been organic times to bring it up, have brought it up.
Exactly. So, and that is why his story is set 20 years into the future, because nothing makes sense. You're planting these seeds in, you know, just wherever, and they end up sprouting like weeds. So you don't have any type of care, you know, no set storyline or whatever. So yeah, having Clark and Diana as parents right now, or it just doesn't feel right.
And by the way, NJ, yes, but I don't count that, because that's just recounting DC stories.
Exactly.
But okay, and even on that, the future with Trinity is a possible future. So while it mentions that Diana made a kid, it could easily be later on the kid was unmade.
But also, I mean, even with New History, is so many contradictions. Even with Diana's new origin told by Steve now is a contradiction. The only thing that they did bring up is, Hippolyta as not Wonder Woman now. But in New History, Hippolyta was very much Wonder Woman, and she was public. It doesn't really make sense because yes, she was a part of the JSA. She was within the team, photographed in the courts and everything like that. So it doesn't make sense that she wasn't known now and supposedly in the shadows. And so yeah, it's a lot of contradiction still, even with New History.
I will say though, I love in Wonder Woman 35, and we'll talk about it because I have a slide to this, that it basically backs up my theory again, because people have said many times when Wade made year one canon that it's like, oh, that means Cassie is canon and all that stuff. And I'm like, if you read the book, she's not, because here's the funny part about it. Again, the only part that is canon from year one is the part where she leaves the island with Steve. That's it. Because it's like, they don't mention Cassie, they don't mention anything like that. So I'm like, interesting how that happens. It's almost like a certain handsome YouTuber was actually right this entire time. What do you think about that, Britt?
Well, it's a lot of nitpicking, and it was Steve's story to tell.
At least they didn't do they go back in time to visit the origin of Wonder Woman. It wasn't that, which I'm like, thank you.
It wasn't that, but I mean, still having it told by Steve and his perspective of everything. And also, the only thing that I really liked was the fact that Diana wasn't the one to save him.
That's true. That's the other thing. She didn't even find him.
So even with that, it's really hard to even care for them as a pairing, because with this, Diana, like, why does she care for him? Even with going back to Man's World, with him, it's like, what's the point of their relationship? Why?
That's the funny part, Britt. That's the funny part about this issue. When you think about it, Stephanie just showed a fantastic argument for how useless Steve is anyway, because he's not even needed to get her off the island. She already wants to leave.
She wants to leave, and the contest is there. Like I said, the only thing that I would have wanted was for it to be that she is she's the representative for Themyscira, and it's not because, oh, the contest is made for for an Amazon to accompany Steve to
But that's what it was in Perez as well.
The contest being, no, she was Wonder Woman before Steve even crash landed.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I'm sorry, I forgot about that. And that was more in the TV show.
Yeah.
Okay, my mistake then. But yeah, I'm like, okay, that's fine. But at the very least, give Stephanie credit for this. Steve is even more irrelevant now to that origin. That's the funny part about it. So when King says, he's so important to her origin, we can now point at this and saying, in your own Wonder War story, he's not. Isn't that interesting? Anyway, so then we get to the final insight of the pair, and then we'll get to like the story. So it's basically like, again, many times you can have a couple superhero couples be together and actually do it like well. It's just you need creatives that understand what you're going for, because I got news for you. Tomasi doesn't understand it. King certainly doesn't understand it. And it's like Sewell gets it. I would argue Stephanie gets it. I would even argue Jeremy understands it based upon the Tomorrowverse. So it's like you just really need to you need the right creatives to understand how to write powered couples together. Because I don't count Batman Catwoman, because arguably even King butchered Batman Catwoman.
Right.
But did you see PKJ was being interviewed, and he talks about how when you really think about it, Talia is Bruce's true love.
I did not see that.
He was talking about a lot like she's the only one that really understands him as Batman and stuff, and I'm like, I still prefer Batcat. I mean, I'm less like I'm more neutral when it comes to Talia versus Catwoman, but again, in this universe where we've constantly had Talia being character assassinated, it sounds nice for someone to actually say, nah, she's not bad at all.
I would say that is another issue that DC and Marvel needs to get a handle on. Even if you don't like a certain pairing, do not character assassinate the female character for another pairing. Like, that is so... If you have to do that, the pairing that you prefer is on shaky ground for me. And it's just, again, it doesn't resonate with me if you have to do that. Yeah,
I figured that PKJ was more in line with Talia because he wrote the Batman and Robin book. And it was like, that was very much like focused on like Damian Wayne and Batman's relationship with Talia. Whereas if you read like the current run where Matt Fraction basically says, oh yeah, I was an unwilling participant in my relationship with Talia. And I go, oh my God, why?
I have no idea.
Like, I'm sorry, that is just generally like, that is just dumb. I'm like, so you're going to character assassinate her again? What are you doing? It's like, yeah, go ahead, Britt.
Oh, nothing.
It's like DC continues to like screw over its female characters, and I'm like, guys, particularly their iconic female characters, because there's a Wonder Woman. But it's like, what do you do? How do you guys like truly say you represent the characters? Or again, it's like, how do you guys properly say like let's say the Return to Rebirth and Post-Crisis was a good idea when you have all this other baggage that you have now bring in and then added new baggage?
They just love the chaos, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So then we get to the history of the Incredibles. So Britt, take it away.
Okay, so we're gonna breeze by this. If you watch the movies, it is within a decade, or maybe I would say 14 years between the first movie and the second movie. The first movie actually was in development in 1990 or so. Yeah, animation does take a long time, especially with that type of style. Even with Toy Story, you have five movies, within this large span, though. And I think with that, it depends on the timing of the movie. In the early 2000s, honestly, I don't think that it was, DC with Batman, I would say, having that. And you also had Marvel with X-Men and Spider-Man. But outside of the norm, I would say, of superheroes, you just did not know about how the audience would see, a superhero family. It also reminds me of I think it was Sky High.
Yeah.
As well.
We may have to do an entire episode in Sky High because that's awesome. But yeah, the other fight that like they were going with like extreme 3D. They were like, oh, so we don't have to worry about having these characters have realistic proportions or consistent proportions, because that would make it infinitely harder and more expensive. It's like, oh, if we're leaning into superheroes, of course they don't all look the same.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
They do have, and even with that, that is part of the plot line where Bob, he feels a little self-conscious that of his old age, he doesn't have that muscular body now. He has that dad bod, so that is one of the plot points. I would say that they really put a lot of Easter eggs and hints and certain things of their process, even with Etna, about the superhero costumes and not having capes and things like that. It's just fun little things of, I guess, also within making the movie, it also showed the behind the scenes process of, what they wanted within the movie or what was a setback within that.
Yeah, which I definitely like there. I also like where they did the whole no capes thing because it got caught in a jet engine stuff. Then they pay it off later in the movie. So I'm like, okay. Yeah, that's the other thing about Incredibles that is so, for lack of a better term, incredible. They set up plot points and then pay them off really well.
Exactly. So of course with the first movie, again, is getting to know the family, and it is centered around the marriage and how they balance, having this normal life and kids with superpowers and having their kids be themselves but also have, hold in part of who they are. And is really having growing pains with as a family unit, and you see how all of them pretty much evolved. Violet, she becomes more open with who she is. Dash is able to be more expressive with sports. Bob, he's a little bit more confident with being a father, with his change. It was kind of like he was having a midlife crisis at some point.
Oh, he was.
So he definitely was. So he had to get over that. And then you have Helen, who was the backbone of the family. Jack, he was the wild card. And it was very fun to see how even he evolved as a character, even as a baby in the sequel.
Yeah, it's like where he turns into like a demon baby later on, but not as big of a demon baby as Trinity. The other thing that I think is kind of interesting about this, when you think about the time period this came out, this is pre-MCU. So superhero movies were not like the big like blockbusters that they are. And then you also add on to the fact that this is an unknown IP. Granted, it's Pixar, but still, it's like none of these characters will recognize when it's coming out. So this was a big risk to make this movie.
Exactly.
By Johnny says, "Are you still waiting for a Wonder Woman animated series?" Yes, we are. So
No.
then we get to the foundation. It's like, I like how they do this is like so many different genres brought together. And again, it's very much a tribute to like the golden age of superheroes.
Right.
But continue on. So what else is great about this movie?
Okay, so as said, the sequel, you can go forward to the sequel.
Sure. Yeah.
So going with that, you are expanding their world. You have Frozo, I think that's his name.
Mm-hmm.
He has he became, even as a side character, he became popular as well with his you can't see his wife, but you can hear the voice, and it's so funny.
The super suit thing.
And that became a thing. They continued on in the second film, and that was to show that, again, these they aren't just robotic as heroes. They are, people with feelings. They are just, quote unquote, I don't like to say normal, but obviously we have to say it, so people can understand, but they are normal people, and they're just living extraordinary lives, more with extra steps.
Exactly. But NJ asked, question, is Helen's body shape natural, or she uses a bit of her powers to help with that? I believe it's natural. So it's like
very much having 3 kids It's
Hmm.
very natural. Um, I would say she did get the snapback waist,
Hmm.
because of who she is as a superhero. But the extra, curves is definitely having 3 kids.
Yeah, exactly. So, but she's still like she's still very attractive. Let me put it to you that way. So then you get to Incredibles 2. So Incredibles 2 reverses Incredibles in that now Helen's the one that's going out, which that's fine. That's not the problem. The problem that I really had with it is like it's just a repeat of the plot where like, oh, the superhero gets involved in this covert organization to get the glory days of being a superhero again. Then you discover that it's that the superhero life is really shady, and then the spouse and kids have to show up to save the day. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that they wanted to tell the story from her perspective, which is good because you still
Yeah.
have that foundation a little bit more, and it really does show how we're in a sense they were reversing it to have her perspective of this is how Bob felt when he was going out, without telling you. It wasn't him trying to, have an affair or do anything like that. It was just in those glory days again. He was having his midlife crisis in the first movie, so she is bound to have hers.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, it still works with that. But yeah, I love the Jack scenes combined. So I'm playing the Lego game of this, and you get to play. There's an entire fight scene that you play for Jack and his 3 other clones versus the raccoons.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. The
Yeah,
rac-
yeah, go ahead.
the raccoon and Jack Jack. I mean, honestly, they do have a third one, I believe, in development. So if they were, I think it would be more on now the kids, and
Mhm.
more of Jack Jack, and they definitely need to capitalize on him, um, going to going to war with wild animals.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be pretty good. Then we have the core free. So tell us about the core themes across the entire franchise.
So again, it is a family unit, identifying as a family, identifying yourself as an individual, accepting yourself, accepting your powers. Each person of the family, they have their own unique powers. Bob, he is super strength, as you said, golden age Superman. Helen is Elastigirl, basically like Mr. Fantastic, in that sense, or who else? Elongated Man or Plastic Man or something like that.
Hmm.
Um, Violet, she is Invisible Girl. She can basically like Sue, um, turn invisible. But that was really her. What I liked about that with Violet was that when she turned invisible, it was basically her hiding herself in actuality of, social anxiety as well. And a lot of kids go through that, um, especially in high school. Then you have Dash. He is the sports kid. He does love to run track and, baseball and everything like that. So he is learning how to, in a sense, control that speed. So it can still be, he can still show off his talent, but it's not just him going through, relying on his powers. And it's still fair for other runners or whatever, players. And then Jack again as the wild card. He is the one that is the I would say the unexpected of how if they were to expand this, you know, um, universe even more, or franchise even more, or have the third movie, what does that mean to have Jack that he doesn't have just one set power? He has multiple. And then you have the balancing between, you know, having that having the superpowers and then living a normal life in the suburbs. Everyone is just going about their day, Bob, he did work in a cubicle. Helen, she was kind of like a housewife. So how do you balance that from at night or, during the day they are fighting gigantic robots or kaijus or whatever? And then, of course, it is about two people who had the expectation of the world, on their shoulders. And now that they have their marriage and they have the expectations to take care of their children.
Yeah, exactly. Which I really like seeing the balance, because now it's a three-way balance. It's the balance of being parents, of their relationship, of being parents, and then of being superheroes. Which I'm like, you wonder why none of them does not go crazy. So with the evolution of the franchise, it's like the whole thing. It's like, yeah, they do explore throughout the entire thing. I did like how the sequel also brought in more superheroes as opposed to just them, and like Frozone / Samuel L. Jackson. I will forever call him Frozen Nick Fury. And the hilarious thing about this is like one of the first like big superhero movies that came out a while ago, because it's like, again, this is pre MCU when the superhero brand was like the big thing that it is today. That it may have fallen out slightly, but I definitely really dig that. And plus, again, I'm gonna bring this up again. I like how this, with the writing in this, was so good that not only did they set up stuff and then answer it, there's very little plot holes. They also managed to put in a little maturity in there with like, oh, the superheroes all being hunted down, but they did it in a way that it's like, it's not too scary for kids.
Right.
So then we get to we already went through the conclusion, so I'll just speed through this one. So tell us about Legacy of Tomorrow.
All right. So this whole thing, of course, we have to have a crossover story.
And a portal opens.
Exactly. And it is specific or set with Earth 22 Kingdom Come version of Superman and Wonder Woman, because this is the verse with the establishment of Clark and Diana having 5 kids. So you have 5 kids, 5 different personalities, 5 different, maybe, set powers.
Mm-hmm.
And just a little bit more expanding of their world to equate to the Incredibles. So Legacy of Tomorrow, A Family United, is basically a multiversal convergence. You have the seasoned Superman and Wonder Woman. Yes, they do have the gray hair, the gray temples, and everything like that, just as Kingdom Come. They are a parent of 5 powerful children, and they have to basically, again, as the Bob and Helen find the balance between that of Clark and Diana's kids. They are pretty much stair steps. I would say about within JSA 22, it looked like they were all like a year or two apart, and the youngest maybe, I would say, at least 4 or 5 years as a gap for their last kid.
I would say so.
Yeah, so I would say with having a house full of teenagers and preteens, or a preteen, that really is, something that Clark and Diana did not expect. So with Helen and Bob, they are there with their family to show, what that looks like, how to have that balance. So both families still struggle within the heroics and the parenting, but this story shows how can they find their own unique way to step up from that challenge.
Yeah. So then you get to Act 1, Worlds Apart, Same Burdens.
So again, Earth 22, Superman and Wonder Woman raising 5 kids. Clark, he teaches the restraint, humility, and hope. Diana, she instills the discipline, truth, and the warrior ethics. Yes, Diana, being the teacher, she is a little strict. She's very much I would say she's still the social butterfly that we know as post-crisis Perez version of Diana, But with Kingdom Come and those um, events, also within that, not all of the events of Kingdom Come happen. So no, not all the heroes um, died. Some of them did, but a lot of them we changed that to where Clark and Diana basically aren't alone in this sense. So other other heroes do have kids as well, but say some of them don't didn't inherit powers, and especially with kind of like the Flash or something, some of their kids don't end up with super speed or anything like that.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, so you have where the kids, they are in school trying to figure out themselves whether they do want to be a full-time hero or they want to have a normal job. So you have, or they want to go to college, things like that. um and that is something that DC could do, because you do have this certain generation now, or um of fans who want that kind of storytelling that resonates a little bit more. At first, you had in people wanting to celebrate and be comfortable within their cultures. And as we've all always said, Super Wonder is kind of ahead of its time. So within the 2010s of New 52, that is one of the themes of the story, was Clark and Diana learning how to navigate within their identity and accepting themselves. But that wasn't really something that people, because they wanted to twist it into that whole um getting away from humanity type thing, you had that negative light with for the story. But now you see people wanting to get to know themselves, get to know their cultures, their family history, and be accepted. Now you see more people on the Bird app, of course, say they recommend Superman and Wonder Woman to read, and especially because it's a story of immigrants. So within this, um, that is something that's also implemented. And then on the flip side, you have where Bob and Helen, just say it's the aftermath of the second movie,
Mhm.
where now they are, Violet and Dash are accepting of themselves and comfortable, and now they have to deal with Jack Jack.
Yep. There you go. There you go. I think I picked an appropriate image.
Yes, you did. So now you have the collision of the portal opening. And what this is even though they're trying to find that right spot of acceptance, um of comfortable of being comfortable with, everyday life, you have something that is going into their minds and now trying to manipulate them all into saying, like, no, this isn't going to be a happy ending, this isn't going to change anything. And also with the world, you have that commentary of, if the world knows that Superman and Wonder Woman have children, is going to be just as we see the whole eugenics thing, or Clark and Diana want to take over the world at some point or something like that.
Yeah, which they don't. So let let me disappoint y'all people. Clark and Diana ain't dictators.
Exactly. So so with this portal opening, the Incredibles actually go to the DC world. The DC world is a little bit darker, of course, because of being Earth 22, and a little bit more politically driven. Um, Again, Helen and Bob already went through that whole outlaw thing. So to have it here, in a sense, and even worse, with worse circumstances, it's a shock to them. And they are, of course, willing to help see how they can reverse this or make it a little bit more um, as I said, comfortable as their world is. So Superman, he is very much in his state of not so much a midlife crisis, but he is stuck on how did things get out of control yet again, because you do have the media a little bit more, and this world does have social media and you know everything on display.
Yeah, exactly. So continuing on, the children
so
bond.
so with that, Violet, she does help the oldest. I would say it would be John and a daughter that feels they have this responsibility to help their parents, to help them understand, especially again with Diana being that teacher. She wants to be, she wants to give all children comfort. And with that, it's an emotional toll on her and her, with her kids seeing that they are very protective of their mother. And so they want to see how can they help her, how can they get their generation, or get them to understand that no, my parents are here to help, we are here to help you know um but of course that is a difficult battle when again you are a teenager. What really can you say that can change the world when you have that political drive of adults, being just as childish?
Yeah, pretty much, right? Pretty much.
So Dash, I would say the middle child, maybe of course his name will be Hunter. He's more of the go-getter, just like Dash. They have this competitiveness, but they become bros, of course. And then Jack interacts with the youngest, and to see his abilities be as unexpected, then that made Clark and Diana's kids, but also the youngest, that will probably have the same thing. Um, that there's no fear in that unexpected power. So
Yeah,
yeah, pretty much the kids are quickly to become like this unit of friends.
love it. So then we get to Act Two, the breaking point.
So with that, that is the act three. That is
Yeah, Act Three. Sorry.
the villain is revealed, and of course we have to have the villain as, you can have Cersei, you can have Duke of the Deception, Dr. Psycho, or anybody like that. It's just someone basically who is manipulating, having the power to manipulate the public, with illusions, with changing certain narratives in, say, having say a conversation or something that is edited to make it seem like Clark and Diana um, are actually deep rooted to be evil or something like that. Or just any villain that has something to do to, or that's powerful enough to have that control over the public perception. And again, Helen and Bob already dealt with this, so they are able to, of course, help them with what to say if Clark and Diana are to have press conferences. Helen and Bob have come go attend those type of conferences with them, and to speak, to the whole world, and try to fight that battle of, we've gone through this, that we are trustworthy. So if you are questioning us now, first of all, why? And second, it's, we don't have anything to prove to you, but at the same time, if we have to be able to do our jobs, we will.
Hell yeah. Act
Four.
four, Legacy Divided. No,
So
Defined. Sorry.
so with this time, with seeing their parents fight against the public with the press conference and speaking, the children decide to take it into their own hands. And because again, this is a time where social media and all of that is used, so they use social media as their weapon. And to see their children basically speak for themselves, to display even their powers, show that they have helped numerous of people and all of that. And you see the world sort of shift once they see these children saving the world, and how they articulate, how they speak, and things like that. No, not everyone is going to be on their side, but there are some people who, I would say majority, are going to be on their side. And this can be also, again, meta commentary. The whole story, of course, is meta commentary of, what we've dealt with Superman and Wonder Woman as a pairing, and the possibility of them having children, and blending in the Incredibles with that, of, uh, the first movie and the second movie already sort of dealing with that. And with even with the children using social media as their platform or weapon, you do have that whole thing on people calling out nepo babies, kids, celebrity kids. Now you have Northwest, Blue Ivy, was the voice actor for Superman in My Adventures, and well, whoever else is a nepo baby as a celebrity, that is basically the role that the children play.
Yeah, so they're like a more cool version of Tom King.
I was not even going to mention
No,
him.
because he is a nepo baby. Let's be clear.
I mean, but he is the worst example of that. We are trying to find positive examples of nepo babies.
That's true. So then we get to the conclusion.
So, as that, again, the world, they are, hard-headed in a sense. They aren't trying to, some people, majority, are trying to trust the heroes and everything, but they still have their own things to say. They are very judgmental. And the Incredibles, with seeing how positive their world is and seeing that they are navigating this in a healthier way, Clark and Diana learns to, they are now having them as their example, and they try to do that a little bit more. They're very proud of their children, and they just continue on with what they're doing. At the end, you do have Clark and Diana on, they live on the farm. So even with living on the farm, that is something that is told. Smallville is known. I did not know whether to have Clark and Diana's identities public, though, because after 20 years or so, and with everything that happened, when you use the Kingdom Come events, secret identities don't really
Eventually,
matter.
they would go away from having secret identities, I feel.
Right. So I would say that even with that, they don't, within the whole story, then they are very much open about who they are, where they live, things like that. Even Diana, again, as a teacher, she is a public teacher, and she is very much an open book. So if you questioning even her, that is more so a problem on the public than Diana herself and her family.
Yeah, I would say so too. So then we get to, so let's talk about Wonder Woman 35, Britt. And by the way, fantastic story, 10 out of 10. And I mean, Britt's story. But so here's where we're going to go for this. Because again, this issue is written by Stephanie Williams, not Tom King. So that automatically gives it a plus. But so let's say this. Britt and I got some things wrong on this issue. We thought it was going to be Diana and Trinity physically traveling through time in order to re-see Diana's origin. We didn't know it was basically Steve telling the story. Now, that being said, this does solidify a couple of things. It solidifies that the year one Greg Rucka book is not really canon. which I love because I hate that book with a fiery passion, as we discussed a couple of weeks ago. I liked how it explains why Hippolyta would be very hesitant about Diana going out to be a Wonder Woman, because she's like, no, man's world will revere you one day and then just toss you to the side as soon as it's politically convenient, because that's true, that does happen. And I like how, again, it shows more context into Diana sneaking in to be the champion. And then finally, I love how it makes it where Diana's not even the one to discover Steve on the beach. So when people say, oh, she discovered on the beach, now it's confirmed that didn't happen. So Britt, your thoughts?
Okay, so again, Stephanie is a real one. So her writing, it made it a little bit more digestible, I would say. But within the narrative of Tom King's story, of course,
it's gonna have that crutch, if you will. I mean, that little addendum, if you will.
exactly. So we start from the beginning. Of course, as I said, I do not like Mommy Dearest Hippolyta. Like, no. I understand if she is very protective. She's traumatized by being Wonder Woman and the outside world, but she was never Mommy Dearest. She was never that. Diana and Hippolyta yelling at each other, we've seen that a little bit in Phil Jimenez run, but Diana was a crybaby, and she was also like a brat. So
It's also Phil Jimenez. Let's not forget about that.
exactly. So within this, it made it seem like Diana was an ungrateful brat, and she just wanted to rebel just for nothing. And that is one of the things that Rucka and King said, that Diana would rebel against her mother, and that's something that she wouldn't want to do. Diana does feel, as Perez put it, she loves her home, but at the same time, she knows that there is something more because she's so curious. She is a free bird, a butterfly. With this, it made it seem like Diana, for her to say that she feels like she's caged in, that the island is a cage, her home is a cage. No, that's no. And because she and Hippolyta had that back and forth, it felt like this is the reason why Diana really wanted to leave, because she wanted to leave her Mommy Dearest mother. No. And then with Steve, again, him crashing on the island just to crash on the island, and Diana didn't save him, which was a good thing. But again, we still don't know. Okay, so if she didn't save him, if she didn't see him, if she really did, she already had that purpose to leave. Why is she caring for Steve? Like, why did she, it still feels like their relationship is so forced. You have to make it make sense as to why they're together. Why is he, it's only because he is the first man she met, but still, she didn't even meet him right here.
What if, though, this is kind of DC doing a little course correction to get away from the Steve focus?
But I mean, even still, we still go to present day of Diana is in love with him, I guess. But it's like, why? We really just don't know why.
Well, yeah, and it's like, because there really is no connection between Diane and Steve when you really think about it. And again, I wouldn't be surprised if this, because Stephanie is a very competent Wonder Woman writer. That's why I'm like, this seems like DC is saying, okay, we get that you guys don't like Steve being the center of it. We'll fix it. Now, let's see what happens also in part 2, because remember, she's also writing issue 36, because let's see how much Steve is a focus in the second part, because watch it be, she just drops him off. It's not really that like, oh, they fell in love instantly or something like that. That would be utterly hilarious.
Well, I mean, when he was describing Diana finally, I guess, telling him her story, And to say that it took her years to tell him and over cold pizza, it was like, okay, this is not romantic at all.
No,
Like,
it's
okay,
not.
she just randomly telling him her story after years of supposedly knowing each other. No, that again is not really selling the relationship at all. And if you're going to have Hippolyta as Wonder Woman, the first Wonder Woman, again, there's a lot of contradictions with that because Hippolyta was, shown. She was in the with the JSA in the hearings and courts or whatever like that. She, they DC wants to have that old as dirt Wonder Woman on display. So how is Hippolyta never actually Wonder Woman if in New History or everywhere else she was shown? You know. So there's a lot of questions, but it's trying to make this work. And if you have to turn off half your brain to make this work and, jump through hoops even with the writing, it's like just please just don't do it. Don't. Stephanie is a great writer, and it's unfair for her to be saddled with trying to fill in the blanks or try to make us care for Tom King's plots.
Again, that's why I'm a little forgiving as well, because it's like, look, there's it's obviously we would love for her to be able to ignore literally everything that King does, but she can't. So it's like you kind of have to like roll with the punches a little bit.
I mean, I'm more so dodging the punches than rolling with them.
No, but you know what I mean about that. It's like there's a limit to what she can obviously do, because trust me.
That's very much true, because this is, an interlude to Tom King's story, and that's the thing, that she is trying to make it a little bit more digestible. And honestly, would we have wanted to see King's writing on Diana's origin? Hell
Nope.
no. No. So, that is the saving grace that it is Stephanie, but at the same time, she's still bound by Tom King's, screwed up narrative.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, okay, so let's actually let's go with this. And I definitely it's not say what you want. It's not centered on Steve. It's actually centered on Diana, which again, when you think about it, writing it this way, it further puts the FU to Tom King. This is centered on Diana. His stuff is centered on Steve. So look at how much, granted there are issues with this, but granted, look at how much more natural it seems when Diana is the focus and not Steve.
True.
And here's the thing. He says he claimed his run is trying to make you believe Wonder Woman's awesome. This does a better job than anything he wrote in that run so far.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, even in the last time Stephanie did those two fill-in issues, it still sounded more like Diana, particularly when she showed up without that stupid braid. That braid is the worst thing King has ever done for Wonder Woman. Let me put it to you that way. But it's not the worst. Visual perspective, it's the worst. But it's like, again, even with this, Trinity isn't even the focus. That's the thing. It's like we thought it was going to be them traveling back in time and Steve playing more of a role in her origin, but no, it's not. It's like it's just him telling a story. So I'm like, okay, this is better than I thought it was going to be.
Right.
And again, it's it's centering more on I think it's more on Hippolyta as Wonder Woman was more about wasn't her as Wonder Woman per se. It's more about her being a hero and helping the JSA. But it was Diana that made the Wonder Woman name what it is. So I think that's what Stephanie is trying to say there.
Well, yeah. Again, as I said, I don't know what to think of within this until probably 36, and until we know the announcements for SDCC.
Mm-hmm.
As of now, I am. I don't have anything nice truly to say about any of it.
Mhm.
It's just that
I
I
understand
would
that.
like for Stephanie to have her chance the right way instead of being, you know, having to step in for a story that she knows, that is not so much as the fans, liking. And also the fact that I think what really makes it worse is the fact that she is getting a lot of backlash because of Tom King,
Mhm.
with certain things, and thinking that she accepts this as
Take
um
it from
pretty
us.
much.
Take it from us. We know for a fact she doesn't.
Exactly. So to think that she's writing this blindly and accepting King, of course she isn't going to just outright, um, I guess, display that. She is going to be professional, unlike others. But
Yeah.
at the same time, you know, like I said, I think that it's just unfair for her to be in a bad situation, especially with the fans that they don't have filters. They don't have any type
Label it
of.
this way, Britt. They would be much more like on her side if she kept pushing for Diana to be gay. That's what she would be more. Because these people will accept anything. They accepted Otto Schmidt as an artist on Dark Knights of Steel for darn's sake.
I mean, well, yeah, that is something, part of it. That is part of it. But it's more so just the fact that I'm just really just saying, to know that she, was insulted
Oh yeah.
by doing her job. That is, that kind of soured just this whole thing. Yes, we do speak on, you know, how terrible this plot is, this event is, and seeing that this book did crash and burn to be at rank 100, but at the same time, it's not her fault. She is just doing her job.
Yeah, it's like there's very little she can do in this situation. That's what people have to realize. It's not like she can openly like say screw Tom King and like just not do any of his plot. She kind of has to. And that's why again I'm a little forgiving of this because it's like I understand given the circumstances, I think she did a pretty decent job with it.
She did what she could with what she was given, for sure.
Now let me ask you this, Britt. How do you rate this issue out of 10?
So I have two rankings. For Stephanie, I give it an 8.
Me too.
For the plot itself and all of the flaws that I, see it as and just hate it, of course I'm going to give it a 2, because I don't like the plot the way that when you screw up Clark, Hippolyta and Diana's relationship as mother and daughter, and have it that to have it strained. And like I said, I don't like Hippolyta written as mommy dearest. Like, no.
Mhm.
I don't like her written as so strict, because she isn't. Don't twist her overprotectiveness or her love and that anxiety, or that worry, into her just being that monster mom. No, she isn't that. She's still very loving. She still will make that sacrifice to let Diana go. So yeah, I that is the one thing that really brought it down for me, is that I don't like Hippolyta being mean. And Diana would never yell at her mother back. She would probably be hurt that Hippolyta yelled at her, but Diana, she wouldn't do so. You know,
I'll give you that. G.A. Pierce has some questions. What issues do the original Wonder Woman properly in regard to the contemporary modern issues from your observation? Well, if it depends what you mean by modern, because if you're talking about post-crisis, George Perez, there really hasn't been a origin story for Wonder Woman since that has done it properly, unless Britt can think of anything.
modern as in now?
I would say so. Yeah.
No, None of Diana's origins make sense. As of 2016 of Rebirth, nothing makes sense. The only way you have a proper origin for Diana, honestly, is 1986-87 with Perez.
Yeah, that's about the only like
And
that.
if you want to go even
Mhm.
canon, semi-canon, Elseworlds, whatever, it would be New 52 because that was a clean slate. So honestly, the only clean versions of Diana Origin is Perez or New 52. But
Y-
of course,
mhm.
New 52 is flawed because it is Zeus daddy.
Yeah, that is very true. So it's like you take it where it's like, because again, unlike some people in the fandom, Britt and I look at the holistic picture and not like, oh my gosh, it's like just because it has the Zeus origin, it is the worst things in sliced bread. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's not the worst thing. Come on, guys, just stop. But yeah, and you guys can ask us a few questions. Britt, if you have to leave, I'm only gonna go for another 20 minutes anyway.
Okay, I think I can stay for that.
Okay, cool. But yeah, but it's like, and then Cameron says, I do want to propose an interaction with the crossover. Imagine what the Par's reaction to Argus. Oh yeah. Yeah, that would be hilarious. Like their reaction to like saying, "Oh, it's a superhero organization. It's supposed to work with superheroes, right? Have you met Amanda Waller? She's like Edna Mode, but way worse."
Right.
But yeah, so it's like now, Britt. I want to ask you. So, what do you think that like a lot of news agencies now are coming out and saying that like Audrey is playing Maxima?
Well, first of all, um, the media, Gunn has not confirmed it himself. That is the one thing that you have to take into consideration. And second, they came out and said the Authority would be in the Superman 25 movie, and no Authority. So it really depends on, you know, what they are saying, because on one end you have people saying it's speculation or that their source is from the insider, but even he is not quite sure if she is Maxima. Yes, he's her name was probably said, but it's not particularly that is the truth.
Okay, that's true. I'll give you that. Now, what predictions do you have for SDCC as far as like Wonder Woman stuff? Because again, I'm not saying that it would happen. It would be interesting if we get a new writer announcement.
Truthfully, not a damn thing.
Mm-hmm.
Wishfully, it would be that um Stephanie probably has they do have a second Wonder Woman book.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it is a relaunch of Sensation or some other, Wonder Woman book. But that would be probably a monkey's paw because she would have to probably write Trinity if they want to keep her, or or something like that. Hopefully not. But that would be something. It is Wonder Woman's 85th anniversary, and
Mm-hmm.
they do not have a panel for that at all. Um, so yeah, I'm just thinking that maybe it is a second Wonder Woman book. That's all I could really think of.
Or
Maybe an
maybe.
Elseworlds or something
Mhm.
like that. But other than that, I have no idea.
Or maybe again could be massive. Like again, if there's anything at all, I could see it definitely being a okay. We're announcing King is leaving at this issue number. Then we'll bring in another writer, whether or not that is Stephanie. I say it could be Stephanie because she is on that panel. That's like what's next in the DC universe. So I'm like she is in there. So it's not necessarily like it's like it like that wouldn't be an opportune time if they were going to announce something.
I mean, well, it could be her Vixen book as well.
That too. So it's like at the very least, at least it'll be another book I definitely have to add to my pull list. So there you go. But that's the thing. I just want something to be happy about, Britt, because particularly with Wonder Woman, there's not that much.
It's not, and it's pretty. I mean, I don't know. It's really it's unfair, because Wonder Woman did, despite 2017 movie aging kind of poorly now, and then on top of that you had badly received 84, but Wonder Woman still as a character and a franchise, to the general public, was a success. She is known, she is wanted. People do want an animated show, people do want a movie, people do want to read more of her stories, or have other books and options. My one thing is that I can't stand right now is that people think that Absolute is the end all be all for Diana, just because her main line is in the trenches. No, because Absolute does take a lot from Post Crisis, or at least her personality or things like that. It is the mainline Diana. She's just in a different environment. The whole magic witch thing and just the change of aesthetic just for the Elseworld thing, that is not Diana. That is not something that you would use um for the main Diana, for the general public. You have to establish Diana as who we know she is, which again is really simple. Just adapt a lot of Perez. He is the foundation. He was the foundation in 1987. He should be the foundation now, because that is the only solid thing that Wonder Woman has had.
So in many ways, you could say Perez is the blueprint.
Exactly.
Much like Zack Snyder. I'm sorry, I had to.
So that is the one thing. And then, yeah, what James Gunn is doing, he wanted a lot of, because he is a fan of D-listers, Z-listers.
Mm-hmm.
And with Supergirl Crashed and Burning, I would think that you would lock in and bring in your more recognizable characters.
You would think if Gunn were smart.
You would think. But yeah, that's still up in the air. But the one thing, like I said, you don't bring in another Z-list female character that is unrecognizable and does not have that same to Supergirl did not bring in the young female audience that they thought.
No, it didn't. But here's the thing, Britt. Remember, this is a guy that thinks that like a big reveal in a TV show is having like Peacemaker's team become checkmate. So I don't think Gunn knows what the general audience considers a like big thing.
Right. And I mean, I guess he thought that people know what checkmate is.
Yeah, that's the thing, and that was my point. It's like you can't expect anyone. Let me put it this way: the general audience generally doesn't even know what Argus is. So I'm like, you really expect them to think that? Oh, look, no, it's like we also have Salvation, we have Checkmate. That the general audience doesn't know what that is. Right. So if it were any other creative, Britt, I would agree with you. But it's like that's why I always push for no, she's Maxima, because Gunn is the type of person that's naive enough to think that that's a thing that's worth keeping a secret.
I mean, well, honestly, again, for that to be a secret, it's still kind of like literal who. And also with her marketing of who Maxima is as a character and the point of her character, if you couldn't get young girls to like Supergirl, Maxima is definitely the wrong direction. And
yeah,
you need that,
particularly if you're going with, particularly because Gunn would go on to the classic Maxima version that you hate.
Right. So it's kind of like, why you don't have any positive female characters in DCU? Like where, and that's pretty shameful. And especially because so many people are advocates for Wonder Woman. Zaslav was pushing for a Wonder Woman movie you said that Wonder Woman was fast tracked and everything, so that's what people expect, Wonder Woman.
Well,
But
remember, this is the man that thinks that like saying, "Oh, I would never greenlight anything before like I look at the script or anything like that." But it's like all this other stuff was greenlit before there was a finished script, and he goes, "Well, those weren't greenlit." You don't know what these words mean with this man,
right.
Oh, remember when he said Wonder Woman is in like, to use Gunn's words, extreme development. And I'm like, oh, so she's a knight. What does extreme development mean?
I know. I mean, to say extreme development and then Anna comes out and like, oh, it's just in the early stages or whatever. It's like, okay, what does that even mean?
Yeah, I know. I'm like, what the heck? Emperor Luffy says, I don't feel safe with DC writing any women characters these days. Well, yeah, it's because the other thing, it's like, if you look at it, and speaking of Supergirl, let's talk about that. Because with Supergirl, that's what really like finally snapped people's mind away from like, oh, Gunn's this great director. He's not, because here's the thing. It came out that like Gunn had like a larger role in the development of that movie. So I owe you an apology, Britt, for doubting that. But it's like, remember when throughout the entire like announcement video, he was constantly like, it's going to be, the DCU is going to be based on these books. None of those books have shown up, have even been adapted properly now.
Yeah. Well, first, you come in very ambitious, and that is what you wanted to adapt. But just because that's something that you want to adapt, the execution, the creative team, they have to make that actually work. That's the thing. And what he wanted definitely was not going to work. It was pretty much, I would say, with the DCU was definitely DOA before it even started. With
the minute that the first project is Creature Commandos, that's the equivalent. That's the equivalent of doing starting the Marvel universe with Thunderbolt.
No, well, that yes, but I'm talking about live action, like big screen movies. If you think that Supergirl crashed and burned, the movies that Gunn wanted. Yeah, those.
Because remember, Authority was supposed to come out immediately after. When you look at the original announcement, Supergirl was not supposed to come out till later. And then Gunn says, oh, the reason why it became the second movie is because the script was so good. And I'm like, so you have no plan. There's no central plan here.
His Authority movie and everything is not turning out. It was difficult to write or, nail down. He also had a Huntress movie.
Of course he did.
Have not heard much about that. Also Plastic Man, Sergeant Rock. You really wasn't going to get the Justice League, as of who we know the Justice League should be until the Justice League movie. So we are, I'm guessing, expected to just accept them, because he's trying to say that, oh, everyone knows each other, everyone is established, this is a lived-in world. No, you have to set it up.
Yeah, you can't just automatically like expect everyone to go for it. Also, the other stupid thing that he did is in the first 10 seconds of Superman, even before the first time we see Superman, him getting his ass kicked, Britt, you know what's the fatal thing he did? So remember that Star Wars style crawl that basically you summarize the DCU? The number one thing they tell you when you're establishing a universe, never use specific numbers. Never say 30 years, 300 years, because then you are stuck with that. And it's like, you can't contradict that then. You could say a long time ago, thousands of years ago, never use specific numbers.
And I believe that Supergirl had already contradicted his timeline of things.
So yeah, your universe just I'm like, what the this should be obvious writing stuff. And let's not even forget the whole turning Kryptonians into just Jor-El into space rapists. And let's be honest, Britt, If Zack Snyder had done that in Man of Steel, what do you think the internet reaction would be?
Oh, they would definitely have some pitchforks.
Yeah, justifiably too. But it's like, but Gunn got the whole Gunn got the what's the word the pass because he's James Gunn, and I'm like, no, be intellectually consistent. If Zack can't have Superman justifiably snap General Zod's neck, then I'm sorry, you have to be equally against the Kryptonians. And then I love the other part. It's like people are like, well, he could like go against in Supergirl. He just doubled down on it and made it worse by saying it's just Jor-El. Isn't that? And so it's like at that point, I'm like, okay, it's already dead. The DCU is dead now because of, yes, it was your second movie, but it's the second movie where you did something that no one wanted you to do.
Right. I mean, and even with that, why would you make them evil? Like, there's no purpose at all.
Well, again, it's because Gunn wanted to put his stamp on Superman. It's all about an ego thing. But yeah, so I just want to go through these real quick. I had some plastic in my movie. I just want to be very clear. These movies sound cool in concept, but they work better in a universe that's established. That's the only reason why we got like Guardians of the Galaxy, because Marvel was more secure. Can they even carry their own movie? In a universe that is like healthy, yes. And then Sergeant Rock was going to be Bruce Campbell's comic turned into a movie. You don't know that. So it's like, you don't. But guys, the L's being evil shows Clark can't choose his parentage, but can choose his parents and whatever the defense is when it comes up with the evil L's. Well, yeah, and it's like, no, it just showed that Gunn understands Superman because he went with the John Byrne era Superman. Arguably, he doesn't. I think Gunn killed DCU on saying Jor-El. Yeah, exactly. That's the minute where I'm like, yeah, that's it. I'm done. And the more you try to justify it, the more it gets bad. But anyway, I think that's a good place to leave it. But yeah, so Britt and I will talk about what our next episodes are. But Wonder Woman Wednesday, I'm going to be talking about Wonder Woman teams up with Black Canary, and by what does Bruce Campbell know about that? He was not announced to be in on it. But anyway, so in terms of like Britt, do you have anything you want to promote for us, and what stories you have coming out?
Yeah, so I'm still building my Subtract page and deciding what will be the first entry on there. It would definitely be about Wonder Woman, but I will probably talk about, her origin or so, and it will be long as my Twitter rants. I am working on other Twitter threads, and like I said, I will, once I get that up and running, it will be Twitter and also having the entry on that page, so you don't have to read multiple tweets. You can just read the whole book on the page.
Essentially.
And I do have Odyssey Chapter 4 and Shelter Chapter 3 or Chapter 4. Oh, whichever
one.
Whichever
the next chapter in Odyssey.
The next chapter. Those are being worked on, and also finishing up the last chapter with the epilogue of Awakened Desires. I also have some one shots that I will be posting soon. It's just always edit because I'm not satisfied. So once I get those to my satisfaction, I will upload those. But I will start uploading more on Archive than fanfiction.net, because for some reason fanfiction.net is glitchy, and some of the uploading, it disappears. So, just for the story not to disappear, I will put them on Archive. I'm also looking for another website to upload the stories as well, but to no avail. Some sites aren't as, I don't think I'm comfortable with them, and it's not so much as for fan fiction like that. So I'm just still looking for that proper site. If not, I will probably be putting them on my Subtract as well. It all depends. Um, and we also have more on the Instagram, more followers. Um, and I'm guessing people are very much awaiting when Wonder Woman will be cast. You know, we do have a friend of mine that is doing some Wonder Woman fan casting options, but he is also in agreement of Wonder Woman will be revealed soon. So he's, you know, just having fun with the fan cast. And I also have a lot of messages from fans as following that as well. So yeah, we will probably have something, but not anything spectacular within SDCC. I would say probably within August, mid-August maybe, to know exactly. But also, Wonder Woman's anniversary is actually October, and we have to get October's solicits. So maybe there is something there as well.
Hell yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I'll be doing streams for that as well. But like, stay at work, everyone. Remember, Lois Lane is Lois Lame. She belongs to General Zod or Satan, whichever one you really want to go with. Zoe Samaxabat for life. Oh, and Steve Trevor belongs at the ninth circle of hell with Satan himself as he ggets melted into paste. So stay heroic, everyone. See you guys later. Bye-bye.